All right. Welcome to day 8 of my 10-day fast, or our 10-day fast, I should say. It's not just for me, it's for the world. Yeah, so I'm going to actually just vamp for a little while, let people connect live. If you're watching the replay, just bear with me for a little bit. So this has been a fascinating journey so far, hasn't it? Um, so, yeah, I guess just we're living in weird times, so weird things always seem to happen. But I've been reflecting a lot about my own business ventures and that sort of thing over the last few days, and uh, still still seeking answers, to be honest with you. But there's some things that are becoming more and more clear as far as the why behind things and not just what. I tend to do this with myself is I'll put what before why, and it's almost like a systemic kind of problem with me. And so yeah, that's something that is always in my head. And so my uh, meditation over the last few days, I guess you could say, has been much more about um, locking in the why, not just what to do. Even in the midst of like praying about, okay, what's the vision. I'll get sidetracked and thinking about, well, yeah, gosh, if I just tried this with my YouTube channel, then maybe that would work and that sort of thing. And so if I just did this, that's a constant battle with me. So that has been um, quite the challenge. So I'm going to try and fix something with my camera here. Oh, sorry. There we go. Maybe. There we go. That's better. Never a dull moment. So anyway, welcome. And today we're going to be talking about, actually, before we start, let's give a quick update. As you probably know, if you've been watching a lot of these videos so far, I'm doing water only for this fast. But to clarify, that was something where I was like, either going to do it for the 10 days or transition out. And I made the decision after some prayer and consideration yesterday that it'd be best if I just go ahead and start the transition out. So what I'm doing today is drinking some um, uh, juice. Now, here's the thing with this, and if you're ever doing a water fast, I want you to hear me on this. That I just don't think it's a good idea to transition into fruits, and that includes fruit juices. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is just the way your body's wired and the way it's in kind of a mode of doing um, ketosis. It's very much burning fat for its fuel, and so if you jump in with fruit juices, um, that tends to disrupt that cycle. And in my experience, that actually makes you feel more hungry and more miserable. And so I don't like doing that when it's water only. So what this is celery and, oh gosh, spinach, I think kale, and a couple of things, cucumber, and a couple of things I'm just not bringing to mind here. But anyway, my wife was kind and went out and got that for me this morning, and so this is actually diluted. There's only that much of the juice in there, which is already, let's be honest, if it's got celery and cucumber in it, it's mostly water anyway, right? You can think that anyway. So that was that much juice, and then some water. I added some sea salt and some lemon in here as well, just to give it a little bit of I guess you could say, just because the taste is not ideal. But if you've been on water only for a couple of days, actually anything more than about 5 or 6 days is what I've noticed, is that there's a couple of things that you notice. One is that the top of your mouth, the kind of palate, um, tends to get really soft. And so easing back into foods is a really good idea. And also your taste buds tend to get a little wacky during the recovery phase. And so, just by drinking a little bit of this already diluted juice, it just, you look at, my tongue is all weird. So it even looks weird. So that is something. But the overall plan is to transition from this juice to, by the end of the day, I'll be drinking full strength juice. Actually, probably in a couple hours, I'll probably be drinking the full strength juice. I just didn't want to give my stomach too much to deal with all at once. So I'm just very much easing into this. In fact, I'll probably be drinking this much juice over the course of the next hour or two, honestly. Um, Keeping it mixed will be interesting, but that's what spoons are for, right? So that is that. But it also kind of funny story. We bought all these vegetables to do our own juices for this transition. And so this morning I'm getting everything plugged in and getting it all put together, and hit the on switch and nothing happens. So yeah, I got a juicer that's been sitting there in my cupboard, broken for who knows how long. But it's something that I think I'm going to be able to get in and fix. I think it's just a kill switch that has fallen from its proper place. I'm like hearing something rattle around in there, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So fingers crossed I can actually fix my juicer and I don't have to continue relying on other people. But also that we've got like a lot of vegetables to juice, and so if not, it's going to be a lot of salads and things like that. I don't know about anybody else, but I find salads kind of exhausting. It's like you get to the end of a good salad and you're like, I can't chew anymore. And when you're already in a weakened state, something like that is just not possible. But anyway, talk about a tangent. We're gonna cover a little bit about what the tangents feel like here soon, but um, apologies. That's gonna happen a lot today. Just be forewarned. Totally pro. Major professional things going on here. Let me tell you. But the overall transition plan for the fasting for me is to do the diluted juices today until, or sorry, diluted juice until probably around 2-3 o'clock p.m. and then sometime around then transition to full strength juices, and then I'm going to start adding in a little bit of. Well, I'm going to try around 6 o'clock or so. I'm going to try an avocado and see how my stomach is doing. The reason I like avocados is, well, one, I mean, they're just the best, right? But also, they don't have a lot of that really solid fiber, that insoluble fiber, and so it's going to be easier for the system to ease back in. And I'm going to get a little gross here, and I apologize in advance, but the way this works is if you go on an all water only fast, there's certain things that just don't happen anymore. So I haven't had the need for a movement in over a week. And so that's another system that needs to be kind of eased back in. And so that's the goal, is to have some avocado to start easing that process back in. And then tomorrow I'll start introducing some very low carbohydrate, some slightly higher carbohydrate vegetables like carrots and beets and that sort of thing. And oh, I'm out of beets. After a trip to the store to get some beets, I'll be integrating some beets and carrots and things like that, which are higher carbohydrate, but not like high glycemic index carbohydrates. So the goal is to get to spend a couple hours with that and bring my level of preparedness back up. I've been talking about this all week, but bring my body up to that level of preparedness again, and get to the point of being able to handle some lightweight fruits. And I say lightweight because I actually do not want to do anything that's very sugary, and there's some specific reasons for this. The diet diet I don't like the word diet. The eating program that I'm already on doesn't have a lot of sugars to it. And so I don't want to shock my body and then have to transition back down as far as the amount of carbohydrates that I'm taking in. But the plan does have a certain amount of carbohydrates and a certain amount of sugars. So I do want to try and bring my system back up. And so day 2 will consist of that, but also going to start adding in some more solid vegetables. Um, Again, slightly softer things like uh, probably some spinach and some just leafy greens like that as well. So that's the plan for that day. So to have both the juices and the vegetables. And then on the final day of the fast, day 10, is when I will start to integrate some of the other foods like nuts and some olive oil and that sort of thing on some like salad kind of things, just to get my body used to that, and then yeah, depending on if I can fix the juicer, we might have a lot of salads in our future. So I, I, I should take a picture and share this size of this bag of spinach that we have. It's enormous. Gotta love Costco, right? Okay, let's get into this. I know a lot of people view these recordings after the fact, which is probably a good idea so you can get past my rambling. But I wanted to talk today about being a SquirrelPreneur. Uh, there's the irony of this whole thing that I've gone off on a bunch of tangents already, and now I'm going to talk about going off on tangents in your business life, which is kind of funny. But the idea of a squirrelpreneur, if you haven't viewed my previous videos to know what I'm talking about, is a concept I kind of came up with after watching the Disney Pixar movie Up. And there's I won't go into the whole thing, but there's a dog named Doug, and Doug is happy and paying attention until a squirrel, and he says, "Squirrel!" And I realized that, like, wow, that's like me and my business. I'm always like that. I'm very much like, yeah, okay, I'm doing this thing. Yeah, okay. Oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do that. And then there's another thing. I was like, oh, maybe I could do that. But the reality is, it goes deeper than that. The reality is, what's happening is I'm saying, oh, I need to stop what I'm doing and do that, because that will actually work. And I don't feel like what I'm doing now is working. And then I go do that and it doesn't work. And I say, oh, man, oh, I need to stop. I need to go do that because that'll work. And it's a never ending cycle. Now, the big problem with this is a couple of things. One is that you're losing momentum every time you do this. And no entrepreneurial journey is perfect. Trust me. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to pivot and do something new. I do that a lot. But what I do find a problem with is when I pivot without fully giving it a good shot. And so in my mind, there's a lot of problems with always having that like panic. Basically anything that relies on emotion to drive your decision making, in my mind, is already in a dangerous spot. Now, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't ever use emotion to make your decisions, because a decision without that, a decision without an emotional attachment, it's hard to find the passion for what you want to do. So there does need to be a level of that. But I'm gonna I'm gonna say something here that I'm sure these people will probably never see, and it's fine, but it needs to be said, and that is that we are in um, a launch culture, and that sounds like a weird thing to say, right? But there's been some developments over the last 10, 15 years. And in my mind, the guy that's probably the best at doing this, his name is Jeff Walker. And I think he's transformed the industry as far as this goes, especially for digital entrepreneurs. But this strategy is often used in other places too. It's actually used a lot with um, selling products like essential oils, and even to some degree, um, you could even argue that some of these strategies are now in use by even like the Amways of the world, and things like that. So it's very much a strategy of give them something for free that's valuable, and then give them another something that's free that's valuable, and then let them know how they can go further. And that's um, what a launch basically is. So it's just like, okay, you're setting them up for a launch of your product, and you're trying to get them to that place of fully understanding it, but more importantly, being connected with it. So it doesn't just make sense. There's an emotional attachment to it as well. And I know that sounds like I'm saying that's a bad thing, or some people may think that's manipulative. And a lot of times people go through these. I just saw this on Thursday, actually, is someone going through one of these kind of webinars that was not following Jeff's um, procedures, mind you, but very much like, you know what, here's some great tools, and here's a worksheet that you can go through, and if you follow this, you will transform your life. And you know what, it will. Actually, I have it right here. It's from Dan Miller. This is the workshop that I talked about a couple days ago. But fantastic workshop. But naturally, at the end of any kind of workshop like that, it's like, okay, if this is something that resonates, there's a way to go deeper. There's a membership that's here. If you want it, you don't have to. It's not like to get to the rest of the webinar, click on this link to buy this webinar, and then you'll get buy this product, and you'll get the rest of the webinar. That's not what this was. It was the whole content all put out in front. But every time I see this, there's always someone, well, here comes the pitch, like they've somehow been cheated out of something. And it kind of hurts, but at the same time, it made me realize when I saw that, it's like, oh yeah, this is something that is there's like it's almost binary responses these days. There's either the people that just get really mad that someone would dare, after spending all the time and effort putting something like this together, that they would dare to expect something of you, or to offer something from you. How dare they? Even though it was actually disclosed in the first part of the video, or first part of the conference, that hey, you know what? At the end of this, you're gonna have an opportunity to go deeper and to join us. That was perfectly disclosed. But again, it's that mentality that comes into it. So there's that. But there's also the people that get so excited and they sign up for something new without fully understanding what they're getting into. And for some of these programs, that can be a real challenge. Now, fortunately, the model that I'm really trying to embrace with this is a lot like what Dan has done, and embrace that kind of more subscription model, membership kind of thing, where you're not having to get all the information all at once. You can do it at your own pace over time and be part of a community. It makes a lot of sense. And if anybody's interested, I can tell you more about that. But the bottom line is that a lot of other of these programs that have the really big launches usually are things like online courses and things like that really um, cost a lot of money. It might be in the thousands of dollars to have this, and so naturally the higher the cost of the program, the more launch efforts are going to be there, I think. And so the the way to do these launches effectively is really to tie into the emotion of, hey, you know what? This is what life is like without, and this is like what life is like with, and that sort of thing, and to tie into the not only the logic of it, but the heart of it. And why am I telling you all this? Well, it's to make you understand, first of all, how these things work, not 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 to dissuade you from doing it, but to dissuade you from thinking that there's this new thing, it feels right, it feels this is what's been missing. You don't want to just get into something that is a big program or anything like that for the wrong reasons. And the wrong reason is what I'm doing isn't working, and I still want to do it, but I just don't know how, or and so I'm just gonna do this other thing, you know, and figure this other stuff out later. Tell you the stuff, that little lie, or any host of reasons. But the bottom line is, if you haven't really truly given yourself the time and the effort and the given it your all, actually, for example, and I'm the worst at this, by the way. If you bought an online course and you're maybe 50% through it, you're probably going to get another launch. Especially if you're in the digital entrepreneur space like I am, where it's very much, you're putting information out online. You're going to get exposed to a lot of this, and that unsubscribe. I don't know if I want to unsubscribe from these people because they're really giving. Yeah, I want to know what's going on, sort of thing. So that's going to be tough. So you're going to get these launches, and you're going to get these programs, and you're going to get these workshops. Um, Again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I would say that, easily half of, oh no, more than that. I would say 80% or more of the information that I used when I finally launched my online career, I guess you could say, or the side venture from my consulting work to starting to do the blog and things like that. That was all information that I had been given for free by some of these workshops and things like that. I hadn't committed to any of the programs yet, but I was aware of them, and the workshops were valuable enough to build a lot of my online business for, and that was great. Later on, I came back and probably did a lot of these, but the problem I ran into, and that I see a lot of people, a lot of people do, is again not give it the full all the way through, not give it a fair shake. You get 50% through a course and say, yeah, okay, I'm going to finish this, but well, this thing's going on, and if I join it now, I'll get all these bonuses. I'll get thousands of dollars for free. It's a worth of stuff. There's these companion courses. There's going to be an online group that's going on, only for 3 months. There's all this stuff. And so if I'm going to do this, I need to do it now. I need to get into it right now before it's too late. There's what we call fear of missing out. And this can be really damaging to a lot of things. One is that your likelihood of actually completing the course that you've been doing for the last, whatever weeks, if you join something new, your likelihood of finishing that other course tanks, like pretty much down to zero. There's some people that are just good at this and can discipline themselves, but over the course of the past year, I've not been tracking this precisely, but I've probably talked to about I would say between 75 and 100 different people like myself, digital entrepreneurs that have the same kind of thing going on, where they will sign up for a program and it's great, and then they get this other thing and there's some sort of factor, something that draws them in, some sort of fear of missing out, where there's these bonuses that are only available if they do it right now. That's that is one tactic that it's probably the one tactic of this formula that I'm not sure I'm completely on board with a lot of the time. Uh, and I'm back and forth on this for this reason. Actually, let's go into that real quick. It's not a bad thing to get a bunch of things that you would normally have to pay a lot more for, as a benefit of doing this. And usually these are things that it doesn't really cost the person offering them anything more to contribute to you. Usually it's digital in format and doesn't require any of their effort. And so it's just like, well, if it incentivizes you to take action on this course or program or whatever, then yeah, that makes some sense. Yeah, and for that reason, that's why those are so enticing, because they usually have like I said, usually when I see these kind of things, they're thousands of dollars of value that you're getting along with the course that you're enrolling for. So what you're actually paying for is what they wanted you to pay for, but by adding these other things in, it seems like you're getting, $35,000 worth of value for $3,000. Pretty good deal, right? And we love a deal, and that's a factor. Now, the pros and cons of this are, well, first of all, as a pro, it gets you to take action. And so this is something where it's a real struggle, because I don't want to dissuade people from taking the right actions. And a lot of times they need a pretty big boost to get going. I find this a lot of the times where, you know, yeah, it's a frustration of mine. Let's put it this way, that people get really tight with their wallet and things like that when it comes to actually investing in themselves, because they don't always see it as investing in themselves. They see it as an expense, and that's unfortunate. But as somebody who has invested more than, I'd say, $30,000 or so of various programs and softwares over the last 4 years, I can tell you that my life is better, and I have much more awareness of these strategies and things like this, obviously. But at the same time, I really wish, now coming back to this actually, uh, this is kind of painfully amusing, I guess. There's a course that I bought in 2018, like January of 2018, that fortunately I still have access to, but I really need to go through that course, because it'll affect some things about my strategy for, well, specifically on speaking, actually. It seems like a good course. People seem to be excited about it. I just haven't personally experienced it. And so I need to figure out how I'm going to set that in as far as time to do that. But that's one of, like, well, yeah, the sheer number of courses that I have are, well, they'll never outpace the number of unread audiobooks that I have, but it's pretty heavy. But again, it's that taking action. If it was the only course I had, and at the time, I believe it was, I think, actually at the time, I believe it was the only course, until a couple weeks later when I got another launch, and or it was part of another launch, and I decided that was a better strategy. And so I stopped my efforts on one and did the other. Um, like I said, that's what kills these kind of things. But so the pro is that you take action, but the con is that you might cease an action that you're already doing for the wrong reasons, and the fear of missing out. The way I look at this is this way. So there's that fear of missing out factor, and this price will only be good, and it's going up. And so I'm like, oh gosh, maybe I'll just invest in it now. I'll just do it and do it later. I'll just invest and do it later. Well, now that money's tied up, Now that money's tied up and you can't use it for your business. This is a lesson or the kind of the mentality that I've gained, like literally within the last few months of realizing just like how. And I'm going to talk a lot about budgeting tomorrow, and how finances work in a business, and how financing works in a kind of a blended role of having a day job and a side venture. Talking a little bit about that, but um, yeah, there's some really fascinating things that happen with that. It's like, okay, so what if I had something that was just about to go and was ready to launch it, but just before I did that, I took this other course that I just to invest in now and do later. Well, okay, so let's say that course is $3,000. Well, now that $3,000 is now tied up into that course. It's not currently giving me value. But what if I said, you know what, I'm going to do this later. You're going to launch again. You're going to do this. You're going to offer this to me, probably in 6 months to a year. It's probably going to happen. You're going to offer this to me again. And I'm sure it's great. But for now, I'm just going to take that $3,000 and I'm going to put that towards advertising and towards partnerships and things like that to grow what I'm trying to get going right now. I can almost guarantee you, obviously I can't do guarantees, but I can almost guarantee you that that investment in what you're currently doing, would be much better to save your money and do that, to finish out that one thing and get it going, get that to a point of being automated, or whatever you're doing with that. I mean, that doesn't apply to all things, obviously, but if you're in the brick and mortar space, this is especially true. Well, and this year has been a super big challenge for that. It's not like you're getting walk by traffic in a brick and mortar right now. And so, investing in a bunch of programs to try and build things may not be the smartest move, if you already have something that you're working on. If you already have a strategy you're working towards, just work that one strategy, just do that one thing until you can actually get to the point of, that's rolling on its own and is successful. So this is where things kind of fall apart for me a little bit. And I'm just being completely honest and blunt with you. And that's why we're doing this program, getting my why fully vetted before I go forward with this, because there's a lot of thought and effort that has to go into the implementation of this. How do I guide people on when to get into a no program and when not to? That's a horrible question to ask, I know, but that is my dilemma. How do I effectively, I should say, I should put in the word effectively there. How do I effectively get to the point where I have the ability to guide people on when it's the right time? Right now, the kind of loose criteria that I use is, have you given it 90 days, to be successful or not? And during those 90 days, did you put your all into it? Did you actually do only that? And there's some reasons I say this. The word overwhelm, I don't think it's actually a word, but it's something that gets used a lot in the circles that I currently run in, is very real. But what I'll say about this is, in the beginning of 2021, I was pretty overwhelmed with all these things, and that it was weighing on me, and still weighs on me today, but it was weighing on me then, like, okay, look, I've invested in all these programs. Well, what am I going to do? Which ones are going to, how is this not working? I've got all this head knowledge. And I say this with a bit of irony, because actually there's very few courses that I've actually gone 100% through. It's actually very true. Is that I don't think I completed all the modules for a vast majority of these courses. But the one I had been using, the strategy I had been using, was just very clearly not something that my audience wanted. It was just clear at that point that I had to stop and say, okay, well, okay, if that's not going to work, what is? And so I went back to some surveys and found that I had asked this question, almost well over a year prior, I believe, like what programs do you currently invest in, kind of thing. And I found that, or yeah, I didn't put it that way. I said, how do you learn? What methods do you use to learn? And I found that the vast majority of them were saying books. Books is the number one response to how you learn, which surprised me. I didn't expect that, actually. I thought print was dead, as they say. So I was like, well, gosh, I had all these efforts to make these books. Why don't I just reinvigorate and focus on that? And so that's exactly what I did. And so not only did I focus and get a book out and published and self-published, the first book in, I believe it was like late March, or I think it was April. Gosh, you can tell how impactful this was on me, huh? Yeah, no, it actually was a huge deal. Around April of this last year, 2020, is when I published my first book. But then I said, you know what? There's the second book that I've already invested a lot in. I've already invested in, an editor to get all the words structured right. I've already invested in a cover designer to get this done. Now's the time. And in hindsight, if you're an author, or a person that wants to be an author, by the way, not the best strategy to publish 2 books in a year. It feels cool, but the results aren't necessarily maybe what you were expecting. But if you're on a trajectory to publish like 12 books in a year, go for it. Or if you're like a fiction writer that's doing like a series, then yeah, you absolutely should. But if you're trying to produce, books like I have been doing, which are more of like, learning a strategy, or learning a technology, or whatever, a system's a better word, then yeah, publishing 2 in a year, not something I currently recommend. I thought it was going to be a great idea, but it turns out it wasn't such a great idea. Just but there's reasons for that I can get into in a much later date. I don't want to dilute this too much, but the thing is, focusing on that one thing got it done. The book you see behind me, Just Do This, was something that I started in um, November of 2017. It essentially took 3 years to get out. In fact, I just got notification the other day that finally, after almost 2 months of waiting, my audiobook has been approved. So it's now up on audio as well for Audible, which is really exciting for me. I don't know if it's exciting for anyone else, and we'll see if it was worth the effort. But nonetheless, it's out. It's done. It's out. And now I put into place a lot of strategies, a lot of lessons learned in the first book into the second book that are looking to be much more likely to bear fruit than previous strategies, and it's great. But if I hadn't focused, if I tried to do the book and all the other stuff, actually, there's some funny things. So over New Year's, I was going over planners from years past, and there's some pages that I came across, and looking at the goals for the week and the goals for each day and things like that, and it was crazy just how many things I was trying to do at once. crazy, maybe not the right way to describe it. But I was trying to do so much things. The way I picture this is there's an expression, don't burn the candle at both ends. For me, this was I lit the candle at one end and then at the other end, and then let 7 different fires like at various points within the candle. That's what that felt like, and that's what that was like, and produced a lot of heat if heat is stress, but ultimately it didn't work. It just burned me out, and that's what life was like for me in 2019. That's why sometimes I don't get it. Sometimes when people talk about 2020 being an awful year, I was like, yeah, it was not great by any stretch. Uh, but the funny thing is, it made me focus. It made me really just hunker down and set all the other distractions aside. I unsubscribed from a bunch of email lists. Actually, I need to go through and redo that process now. I've actually managed to get that up a lot. When you have like multiple hundreds of emails in a single weekend, you're subscribed to too many email lists, and I very rarely get emails from people. So yeah, so that's that indicator there. But regardless, the SquirrelPreneur thing is real, and it is something that's tangible, but it's something that I'm still trying to figure out what to do about. And so bear with me. I mean, getting these things out, I think, is going to be helpful for a lot of people in and of itself. Just the examples of what not to do. But my goal over this next year is to start some systems of actually having some accountability. Right now, what this kind of looks like is more like a mastermind kind of a thing, where you are part of a group that is, and the idea here is that you have a progression of your uh, hobby to business to being a business owner to being a multi-preneur, I guess you could say, and doing it the right way. It's very much a focus forward kind of thing, but it's very time consuming as well. But something that I'll be wanting people to commit to for 90 days at a time. I think that 90 days thing actually kind of works. As far as committing to a single strategy for that long before you decide if you're going to keep it or go for something else. But having that shield of people that are with you and supportive of you, that all agree on that, is going to be good. And I'll tell you why. Again, I'm not trying to decry any of the groups that I belong to, because there's a lot of them. It's probably too many. Actually, looking at holding that down as well to a degree. I'm a connector. It's what I do. But at the same time, there always seems to be this attitude of, um, well, it's a horrible movie to think about this on, but when I was traveling a lot, there's this movie called Up in the Air. Um, Rated R. Don't watch it if you're going to be offended by things like nudity and things like that. But there's a scene in there where these two travelers that just basically travel for a living, which it resonated for me because I do that. Were comparing the amount of loyalty cards that they had, and then the kind of perk cards that they had, and what level they were at with their frequent flyer miles and all these kind of things. And it was it's an eye-opening scene for me of saying, oh my goodness, yeah, I've got a lot of these things myself, and I have found myself bragging about them. Well, it's the same thing with all of these online courses. People brag about how many of these they belong to. They don't mean to be bragging. They just fall into this trap of saying, oh yeah, yeah, I know this, it's a great thing, And so when a question comes up, hey, do you guys think I should join this? The answer is without any hesitation, yes, you should. I love this. They don't ask any questions. They don't do anything to say, well, where are you at in your current business? Where are you at with your development work here? Where are you at? There's no check-in. It's just that immediate response of, oh yes, you have to do this. It's great. Because usually they don't. I mean, a lot of these programs that these people are talking about usually are utterly fantastic. And I've learned and grown so much from a lot of these. But when I stop and think about how much I would have grown from each of these had I done them in the right time, I would have taken so much more action than I have. So again, it's not my purpose or desire to dissuade people from being part of these programs. It's really to form a group of accountability and for me to be a coach within this as well. I'm working with people one-on-one wherever possible to keep them in the right decisions and keep their mind right and kind of be that voice of reason, in the midst of the emotion of it. Because like I said, that fear of missing out is super powerful for making people take action. So much so that it's something that I very much am looking at how to do that in my own business in the right way. I've actually pulled a lot of these things from what I do because I have been so damaged by misusing it. And so there needs to be some further, this is for you if kind of statements and discussion and those kind of things, I think. But anyway, that's where I'm going with this, because I just don't want to see people becoming that squirrelpreneur where they're just always chasing after the one thing after the other. I really want to see, things either be successful or not. And if you need to move on to another thing, you need to pivot, then do so for the right reasons. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful to you. And feel free to reach out to me. You can direct message me on any of the platforms that you're currently doing this on. It's absolutely fine. I'd love to talk to you. There's, like I said, this is something where there's a emerging need that I'm seeing that I'm starting to hone in on how I can serve. And so these are just some of the ideas. This is not something necessarily that's going to go into the final, if you want to call it that, progression here. But there is some thoughts about having a membership kind of site where we would have either weekly or monthly discussion groups, accountability groups, that sort of thing, but also to bring in some of these other experts and have these discussions and then follow up with, okay, who is this right for, and that sort of thing. And so that it's kind of a bold vision, but at the same time, the more I think about it, the more excited I get. And so I'm hoping that excitement is just, misplaced. And so if you have any feedback on something like that, let me know. And if it seems like it's something that's going to be enough interest, then I will probably start a founders group soon. And a founders group just means a group of people that are willing to kind of have those dusty boots. Dusty boots is kind of a saying that if you are looking to build a home or have a home built for you by a home builder, usually they make good offers on the first few homes that are sold or built, because there's going to be a lot of construction going on for sometimes upwards of a year or two. And so the muddy boots pricing or dusty boots pricing is because it's going to be a lot of dirt, and so you're just agreeing that the lowered price is for that reason, that it's not fully done yet, that this neighborhood isn't built yet. Well, same kind of thing with what I'd be looking at. And so if that's something that interests you and you want to talk to me about it, I would love to hear from you and love to hear your thoughts on what you think would be valuable with that, so we can at least get initial structure and then go forward with a launch and do that. So I'd love to hear from you. Actually, I just love hearing from you in general. I'm not seeing a lot of you know uh, people attending live, but several of you have come out to me or messaged me and messaged and said how valuable these posts have been for you, and I truly appreciate that. And this is something where it's not a horrible amount of effort for me to do. So I am going to try to make time to do more of this kind of thing. It's not terribly well, obviously not well scripted. I just kind of chose a topic and then just started talking about my life. So, but hey, if that's helpful, that's awesome. And so I find that a blessing. So if this has been helpful to you, or if you have ideas or questions, or you want to work with me directly, feel free to let me know. We'll get on a Zoom call. We'll talk it out. All right. No charge to you. We'll just talk it out. That's the way this works. So again, thanks for your time today, and have a blessed day, and do something for me. Today's Martin Luther King Day. So reflect on this a little bit. Like, is there ways we can, my goal is to leave the world better than I found it, right? Are there ways we can orient ourselves to, as Martin Luther King says, you know, judge people by their character, not the color of their skin or whatever. You could add on to that. I'm sure a lot of people do these days, and that's perfectly appropriate. Very much about that. So picture a world where we do that, not just like governments and things like that. To me, telling a government to do that is like delegating, and or actually in this case, it's not even delegating. It's just like demanding service from and not doing it yourself. Well, this is something you got to do yourself. You've got to have an orientation towards leaving this world a better place, and we can't do that by assuming people are one way or another because of the color of their skin or anything else about them. We can't truly leave this world a better place if that's our assumption. If we immediately prejudge people based on that. So that's my request of you today. I know it has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but because it's Martin Luther King Day and it's been on my heart, so that's something that I would definitely ask of you to consider, to take those steps in your thoughts and meditations. Are there things that I'm doing that are making assumptions about people, and not letting them tell you who they are. Yeah, and if you're just flat out a racist, don't watch my videos. I don't want to. I don't want to interact with you. I'm sorry. No, actually, I'm not sorry. If you are just a person that is just at your core racist, you're not going to be compatible with my messages. So bye, Felicia. That was harsh, but probably need to be said. Anyway, I do appreciate your time, like I said, and if there's anything I can do, let me know. But I'm going to be signing off for now and going to go drink a lot of water because now my throat is very, very dry. So have a great time. Oh, hey, really quick. If you're joining me live or that's your habit, I will be going live again tomorrow at a different time. I'll be going live at 6 p.m. Central Time. So 6 p.m. Central Time, going live again. We're going to talk about, kind of some concepts of budgeting and finance, and how finances kind of work in reality for someone who is starting a side venture or a full-time entrepreneurial venture. So hope to see you there. If not, you can catch the recording. It's perfectly fine and perfectly free. Okay, yeah, definitely need some water. Have a great